One of the things that you talked about was um, what, storyboards, right? Obviously, the thing is that it's just not just in the world of film, but even in business planning or anything, it's all about the planning. And then when you have that plan, even if it improvises, at least you know where you're going instead of completely being lost in the tunnel, right? Um,
Yep.
I'll ask you to talk about the visual effects, but I do want to make a comment. Uh, so we all know Francis' body of work, the Godfather trilogy. One of my personal favorites, which nobody talks about, is The Outsiders. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, I
Yeah, no,
highly
I've seen The
recommend.
Outsiders a couple times. Love
Yeah,
that film.
I love that film. I love the book. I love the film. Apocalypse Now. What was it? Tucker with Jeff Bridges. Was it Tucker? It
Yep,
was called.
Tucker's a
Yeah,
great film.
yeah.
Yep.
But if you look at all those films, and then you look at Stoker's Dracula, the way I'm not saying it's different, but the editing was style was a little bit different. I mean, the pacing was different, everything, but at the same time, the core of it, which are obviously the characters, were consistent to his other work. And one thing that I really found interesting with the film, in which you kind of talked about the visual effects, the shadows that are going in the other directions, and the camera going up. Obviously you speed it up in post. You go up the stairs and you come back, and just either the point of view of Dracula. I thought that was really masterful, and when I started watching it, I was thinking about nowadays if they make Dracula, it would be like very kind of like a horror film. Like, they will try
Right.
to
Yes.
scare you,
Yeah.
jump scare you. This wasn't horror.
No.
It wasn't horror at all, and that's what I loved about the film.
I think so too. Again, that's one of the things I think Francis is really great for. Whenever he goes in, it's not a genre film. He makes it his own. He makes it a world of his own. So he took what it would be a normal, because it was kind of, I mean, I remember him one time. Well, I don't know if I should say this, but it's a little unfair, but he at one point said to me, "Well, this isn't the best Dracula script we read. This is the one that Winona Ryder wants to do." And then he made it. He kind of helped by again doing this process of over the 6 months working with the writer. Francis always, deferred back to the writer and said, "Here, we've done some lifts, we've done some changes. Come, you go take a look at it. Put it back into your format of your script writing program," which again were more primitive back in '92. Not even sure Final Draft was around. I can't remember what they were using, but um, and so the writer was all very involved. It's just that he was, it was like the director working with the writer, only he was doing it through actually pre-editing the movie and getting it to a pace where, when you heard it, the actors had their lines, they had their moments. Um, it all kind of had the same fluid. But your point is good that it still feels like a lot of the scenes when they are actually into their emotive dialogue scenes could have been in Godfather 3. The same pacing, the same to the emotional level of where he was going with the scenes. He let them play, and not a lot of cutting. A lot of times, when Dracula's on the bed with her towards the end, and he's saying, "No, I don't want. I want you," but then, "No, yeah, I don't want to kill you. I don't know if we can do this." And then they do it. Those are all. It's like 4 or 5 shots, and you could have made it 15 shots and made it a lot more cutty, and but you don't. You let a shot play. So it has a pace that is both fast and slow in a funny way. So that you get tension and then you get kind of release and it goes off and all of a sudden you're walking on the street with Dracula and it's got all that because they used some old cameras to get that flickery look that
Yeah,
is the POV, say, of Dracula, whether he's the wolf or whether he's walking through that street. That was an old camera that they used to get that effect rather than, say, pulling out a bunch of frames in post, which you could do. Uh, and I think that's one of the things that Francis was always great at. He always wanted to mix different film types of effects, like that green mist that comes into the door up to Mina, that's live. That was all done right there on the set. And the
nice.
the shadows that you talked about, that's all live. That's somebody behind in an angle working it just to be so even when Drac is in Dracula's sort of count his room where he's talking to Harkin, the map is in the background, and the big shadow comes up and sweeps over. They've shot it in such a way that they have an actor off to the side who can be hit with that light with the shadow to make it all the same moment. So that's all live, and including there's a shadow that comes over Mina when she's in the parlor with the other woman, and all the suitors are coming in, and there's another shadow that comes in. That was one of the first days of shooting, and I remember we were both looking at it going, how did he, wow, he's got this shadow. We didn't really know that that's how it was going to go. And it was like, oh man, look, he's got this shadow working in here. Where is that coming from? We're always trying, the other editor and I, Nick Smith and I were the original editors that worked on it for many, many months. And then Anne Grassad came on in like May of the next year. I think it was shot in 91, finished at the end of 91, a little bit into 92, and then was released in 92, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, it was released
Um,
in 92 for sure.
yeah,
It
and
was.
so and she came on and did some work on the love story. There was they thought that a woman's touch could help with the love story. And we all worked on it really hard, and we all did really good work on it. Um, with the old camera styles, there's also, when you mention his older films, One from the Heart was what he was referencing. There's a lot of the scrims also that are creating something that's happening in the background where they just if you have a scrim up and you have the foreground scene, when you hit the right light on a scrim, you then see a background that wasn't there before. And that's apparent, I think, in the scene. One of the places that's really apparent is in the scene where Van Helsing and Mina are on that cliff, and the other three women are coming around. That was kind of a scrim that just sort of appeared, and all of a sudden they were there. And so it was very interesting, those kind of methods. A lot of just bypacks, the blue circle light, the circle fire that comes through when he first
Mhm.
going down, when Harker's first coming in and is the stagecoach, and he looks over and he sees this weird, blue light flame. That was all just bypacks. So it's very simple kind of techniques. And then, of course, at the end was one of the big digital shots when the face change happened
Mm.
from him being an old Dracula to the young Dracula as he's dying. That was done as one of the few full digital effects in the movie.
And see, that's
One of
one of
the
the things. Sorry, go on, please. I thought.
I'll tell you one more thing that's always stuck to me was I was down there the day they were shooting a plate for the Borgo Road, and all they were shooting was on a stage, and they just had these horses that were all going around the road, which was part of the Borgo Road leading up. And there's a great shot where you see the full stagecoach and the horsemen behind it going, and it's about a 4-second shot, and they're going
Right,
along the
right.
road, end in the road, and they start to go around the bend, and you see the big Dracula, castle up on the precipice of that big craggy cliff area. And that was a matte painting. And I remember being there that day, and they're all being very careful to get the counts of each take right, to know what frame it started and what frame it ended on a 10-minute roll of film. And I think they shot 3 or 4 takes, and that was the roll. Well, that roll was then not processed, but put away for about, I think, 7, 8 months, maybe. I think it was shot in October or November, and they pulled it out in probably May. And Lucasfilm, working in on a lot of the visuals effects that were done, had a matte painter paint it. And I'm not exactly sure what she used as a reference, because they never processed the film. So she did a matte painting based on whatever they got from the art department. Maybe it was still shots um, from the the 35 millimeter camera. But they did this whole matte painting that put all that in. And then back in May at Lucasfilm, they re-put that same film in that was shot 6 months earlier, and then went to, like, we say we picked take three. They went to the 650 feet into that roll, and then started filming again with the background matte painting, marrying the two together.
Wow.
And so we didn't know what we had. And, we had a videotape that was a video tap from the thing. So we know what we were cutting when it was just the horses, but we didn't see the whole thing put together until like the end of May. And it was just so cool to all of a sudden go, wow, you can do that. I didn't even know that you could do that, and make it seamlessly all blend in together. So you really feel like that's, a real shot. But that is two pieces shot 6 months apart. And the matte painting was quite big. I saw the matte painting at one point, and it wasn't just like this or anything. It was, 10, 12 feet by 10 feet. It was a full size canvas. I was shocked. I thought it was really cool that they put that much effort and detail so that when it was projecting on a big screen, unlike watching it today on a television again, but on a huge screen, that it really had the detail that was necessary to sell the shot.